Hi, I'm Tomi Arayomi.
And I'm Tobi Arayomi.
Today, we're talking about hashtag stay woke. This is on the table.
We all have a life.
No word, no bed. No ringing, no baby, female, no female. No.
Hey, bro, welcome back to On the Table. You've been away. Have you been away?
I have been away.
You
I'm
have
back.
been away.
I've been
You're
stretching my feet and
back in the flesh. And you got a nice set going on.
I do. So this is when you hook up. This is when you digs.
Okay.
You know,
I'm
you
feeling it.
noticed a little bit of jealousy before we came on filming. But it's okay. We're called to complete and not compete.
Yeah, but you got a Wealth Nation thing going on. And obviously, Wealth Nation is the name of a fantastic business that you run.
You got a Rig Nation thing going on. And
Where's
obviously
Rig Nation?
is the
Where's
name
Rig
of a
Nation?
fantastic
Where's the Rig
ministry that you
Nation?
run.
Tell me where it's on the walls, please. Tell me
Well,
where
if
it's
we
on
look
the
at
walls.
Rig Nation and we look at OTT, they're the same
Okay.
set.
All right, moving on. Okay.
Moving on.
I think you're transgressing. Okay, so anyway,
I think you're sinning too, but okay, let's move on.
whatever. We're going to do that. Anyway,
Yeah, whatever,
move on.
keep going.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
will.
move on. Get over it then.
I already said that.
I looked the
Okay.
wrong way. Get over it then.
All right, moving on now. Okay, so welcome
Okay,
to...
moving on right now. Cool.
Starting now.
Go on. Let's go.
Beginning now. Okay, so bro,
Let's go.
glad to have it. Okay, so we're starting... Going for it. Okay, so
Nah.
this is... Stop. Okay, let's get serious now.
Yep.
On the okay, one of us has to be the grown up. I've decided it's gonna be me. Okay, so you have
Thank
your.
you.
Okay, you're welcome. Whatever makes you feel bigger.
Cool. Let's go.
Okay. Fine. Fine. I'm gonna play this game. So we're talking about being woke. Okay. What is woke? What is woke? I'm gonna look for a
Well,
dictionary.
woke actually came from, it actually came, funny enough, from the Republican Party in the United States. That was the first time it was used, apparently in the early 1860s was the first time it came about. And it was used to describe those who are awake to the perils of racism and the things that were going on in racism. It was later revived in the 1940s, and then it began to be something that was adopted by the politically left-leaning to describe their awareness to complex current issues that plague us politically today.
Great. I like actually the dictionary definition as I look at this. So Wikipedia, first of all, defines woke is a political term which originated in the United States, and it refers to a perceived awareness of issues which concern social justice and racial justice. I'm scared to read the Urban Dictionary because you know how sometimes it can get a little crazy up in there. But one Urban Dictionary contributor defines woke as being aware of the truth behind things. The man doesn't want you to know. The man. A concurrent definition signals a shift in meaning to the act of being very pretentious about how much you care about a social issue. And so talk to us, like, what is this woke thing and why should we bring it on the table today?
Well, it seemed to be a resurgence around the time, around the 1940s, particularly around the 70s, where it's almost as if the only way I can describe it is peace and prosperity suddenly abounded after World War II, maybe, and suddenly we had no more problems. So a bunch of people decided we're going to create problems where they don't exist.
Now, you sounded a little bit cynical.
Now, I'm a bit cynical of it, obviously.
There
are some. No, there are real issues. Don't get me wrong. There are real life issues going on. But then you have to look at the issues that we're facing in the West and compare them to the issues that are happening in other areas in the world. And if you do that, you get berated immediately by those who are politically left because wokeism is also selective in nature. So, for example, always believe the voice of a woman. What that really means is only believe the voice of women when they align with us politically. Because the moment you start talking about a woman that Biden apparently raped, let's keep that quiet. Let's keep that hush. That doesn't get carried on the airways. But the moment something happens to someone we politically agree with, we say, woke, and what's the term? Me Too, and all this stuff. Or we say all lives matter.
Right.
I'm the clarion call of, Black Lives Matter, sorry. I just made a woke illegal move there.
Yeah.
But we say this monochrome, Black Lives Matter. But why didn't they matter in Uganda? Why were we silent on the issues plaguing Black people in Uganda? Why didn't Black Lives Matter as much in Nigeria? Yes, the BLM movement put out 1 or 2 Facebook posts, but we didn't see much protesting, much screaming, much shouting in the streets. So do Black Lives Matter? Or is the social justice woke movement selective to those who align with political agendas? This is the ideology of wokeism. So wokeism itself can be narrow-minded, it can be tunnel vision, because it is plagued by agenda.
All right.
It's plagued by.
So speaking about women, right? Because women's a huge part of wokeism, right? Believe women, support women, women's rights, etc. So Cosmopolitan magazine puts out this newspaper today, which I just want you to see this and tell me what you think. So it basically, I'm going to turn this around, we'll put it up on the screen. It basically features, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a really obese woman. Like she is clinically very obese. But the caption says, "This is healthy." And it says, 11 women on why wellness doesn't have to be one size fits all. And it clearly features this heavily obese woman. And anybody who criticizes her in the cosmopolite today is accused of somehow being guilty of, guess this new term, fat shaming.
And yet, do you know what's interesting? Wokeism is often anti-scientific in its nature. I'm not being mean to this particular lady when I say this, but actually the fat that develops around the lower abdomen, that belly the abdomen fat, is actually, it's called visceral fat. And it's actually strongly related with a lot of health difficulties and problems that plague us today. So to write that is the new healthy, I get what it's combating. Because if you go to the opposite extreme, you've got this airbrushed, fake.
It ain't combating that. Okay, you can say it's combating that, but let me tell you what. No, I don't care what it's trying to do. No, let me just say, I don't give a. You're trying to be PC right now. Okay, go for it. You're trying to be. I feel like you're trying to be PC. I feel like you're trying to.
No, I'm not trying to be PC. See, if you're going to be the wise man, you have to be able to know what both sides of the story are. You can see what they were trying to remedy, but they did it wrong.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No. If you're trying to remedy the bulimia and the borderline anorexia of models today who stick 2 fingers down their throat and vomit, and then they're considered too fat if their ribs aren't showing, then you do that by featuring a genuinely healthy person. You don't go to the other side of the spectrum which is just as much a problem of the malnutrition is not even the nutrition, it is the oversaturated obese woman on the front cover of a magazine basically saying this is the new health, and health is not a one size fits all.
I'm saying. Okay. I can see what they're trying to remedy.
It's
the wrong approach to
remedying. They're not trying to remedy it.
They're literally giving paracetamol for cancer.
Okay, so
It just doesn't.
so among the top 10, you said wokeism is anti-science, and
Let
I
me tell
think
you what else they're trying to remedy. Let me
Okay.
tell you what else they're trying to remedy.
Go for it.
They're trying to remedy the kind of fat shaming, they call it in woke culture. It's a language. Fat shaming is a thing. They're trying to remedy that kind of shame on you for being overweight and being fat. The kind of shrouds. Remember when Sadiq Khan came into power? That there were posters by, I think it was a health company, I can't remember who. They had posters of people in bikinis, and in a politically correct kind of woke way, he got all of them banned, all of them removed, because again, those kind of pictures, okay, you can say on one extreme they fat shame, on the other extreme they make young girls feel like unless your body looks like that, if it's not ripped to the max, you're rubbish. You're rubbish. No guy wants you unless you look like that. And it rearranges all our priorities to the point. What's going on with my English there? To the point that we're so external and we're no longer taking care of what's going on. So I see what it's trying to remedy. Wrong approach.
I hear what you're saying, but you can't say you see what it's trying to remedy and then say wrong approach, because it is not trying to remedy that. You see, these people aren't stupid. Okay, I get what you're trying to say. These are the very people who you are accusing of being the perpetrators of the very act of airbrushing or light skinning dark skinned people, or making already great shaped models even skinnier by tucking in their waist using Photoshop. Get all that, given all that. You know, the opposite of that is reflecting the woman as they really are, stretch marks and all, you know, all their curves, everything. But when you go to the opposite extreme, now let's talk about social justice versus the social science. Social science tells us that the number one social issue today is obesity. Obesity is the top ranking of all deaths that are avoidable. You can actually avoid people getting health complications due to obesity. We talk about elderly people suffering worse from COVID-19, but obese people as well suffer badly from an adverse reaction to COVID-19 and tend to be among the top tier of deaths in this country and other countries as well. And so the challenge is, if we're talking about social justice and we're talking about wokeness, why would a magazine then flaunt a clear social justice problem as a social justice solution? And then we sit here and watch it and go, I get what they're trying to do. No, if it is the top 10 social issue in the world today that can be avoided, people don't have to die. This precious woman on front of this magazine wearing some spandex or something and saying this is healthy, she is not healthy. She's not healthy.
Let me tell you a further problem it creates. I was listening to a great TED talk by a physician that talks about how the human mind, though it can be more negative than it is positive because we have certain biases in the brain, the news that the human mind believes is actually more positive than it is negative. For example, if you went to two doctors and one doctor said, the cancer's not so bad, we can get rid of it. Another doctor said, sorry, terminally ill, terrible. We are more likely as human beings to believe the positive news to the negative news. We're more likely to be optimistic than we are to be pessimistic. It's as if faith is in our nature to believe the best. So if you are validating the experience that something that is totally unhealthy, and by the way, quite pandemic right now, like being obese is okay, then already that plays into, in a way,
obesity is a pandemic.
It is pandemic, and it plays into our already existing sense of bodily dysmorphia, where we actually don't believe we're as fat as we are, or we don't actually believe we're as unhealthy as we are. Dare I say, if there was a machine that could look inside of our system as we're taking in the foods we're eating and see what's going on the inside.
Right.
There are so many things that we would probably avoid like a
Absolutely.
plague from eating and putting on the inside of our body. It really does take into effect that the body is a temple and you need to take good care of it, but we're just not. And I don't know why we're stuck on the body
But
fat
yeah, but
thing.
just I think we're stuck on it because think about it in the landscape of where we are today in woke culture, right? Science by convenience. I believe in science when it's convenient for me, but when it's no longer convenient for me, I delete the question to change the answer. When does life begin? Who
Correct.
knows? Well, post-birth, maybe once the child is born, or maybe when the mum decides the child is a child as well.
Right.
What is gender? I don't know. Whatever we decide gender is gender. Can you imagine a day we're moving into where they point out to us over and over again, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. And then eventually we end up believing it to the point that, okay,
Right.
so you have transsexual, you'll have trans race. Imagine, and this sounds like a joke, but just think about it. Like, imagine trans fat, right? We already have the huge issue of trans fats is a big issue. But imagine a whole generation of people who identify as trans skinny. It doesn't matter what you identify as. It doesn't matter if you put healthy on the label. The problem is if you are really woke, if you're really woke, you will identify the problem, you won't avoid the problem. And somebody may say, that's easy for you to say. Pull up a picture of myself and my brother right now. Yes, we used to be porkies. They used to call, who was Tweedledum? Were you Tweedledum or was
I don't know. One of us is Tweedledum.
One of us, I was probably Tweedledee. You probably Tweedledum. But you know, they call us Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And
Look at me now.
look at you now.
Look at me now. Look at Tweedledum now.
Let's
Who
Tweedle.
dumb now?
Let's Tweedle. I'm joking. But yeah,
done now?
okay, well done, good. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like no matter
God.
no matter what you call a thing, it's not woke. Woke today is changing the meaning of words and then forcing everybody to accept the new meaning through authoritarian measures like policy and legislation. And if you don't accept it, you're severely punished until you do. And let me tell you what that means. That means unless we wake up and do something, unless we wake up to the woke and do something about it, the crazies will run the asylum. Like we are in
actually the world, the world actually looks like an insane asylum. You
It
go
does.
on Twitter and it just looks like a clinic full of insane people chucking poo at each other from across the room. It's just, this is essentially what cancel culture is all about. It's the cult behavior. You know, there used to be people who studied cults. The culture became a cult. And the cult of culture is this: in the face of science, like there is now proven hard fact science of where life begins. There's hard fact science of when a baby in the womb starts to feel pain, excruciating pain. There is hardline science on these things. It goes against woke. And if you dare speak the way we speak, you are given lines. And these lines, I keep calling these words, they're very effective, political handcuffs. The left leaning have become the master of linguistics until yesterday or the day before. We'll pull up that footage in a minute, the linguistical stupidity that we heard just a couple of days ago. But they're so good at, you bring up a point just for the purpose of thinking. It's like, nope, let's shut down thinking. Transphobe, pro-lifer, what is it? Anti-vaxxer. Sometimes I'm not anti-vaccination. Can I just say something? I am not anti-vaccination. I'm anti some vaccines that have done terrible things to people. I'm definitely against thalidomide. It did terrible things to people, and there's evidence that vaccines in the past have caused problems. Does not make me an anti-vaxxer. It makes me a thinker who wants to know what is about to go in my body, who doesn't dumbly or stupidly believe that just because a scientist said it, it's orbiter dicta. All of a sudden we should, oh God, I want to
Say
know
that again, it's what?
how that
Say it.
Orbiter dicta. Oh, you just call me Tweedledum. You didn't know I speak Latin?
You try.
Y'all don't know I speak Latin?
You in the system.
I'm in the system.
Oh, you in the system now. You speaking Latin. Say it again.
Orbiter dicta.
I could continue. Please continue with your
So
dicta.
just because of that, it does not mean that it's binding precedent. So we've got to be so careful that we don't succumb to the because in cults, shame is a very powerful tool of conformity.
Absolutely.
Because we as human beings don't like to be social lepers and outside.
Like
and so
that.
shame has been
Social
so powerful
lepers.
to the point that people who know they disagree with everything that they're seeing will say absolutely nothing.
For fear of being shamed.
Even when people are coming against you or coming against me, even when they know we're right, they're so afraid. This is cowardice. So afraid to be different, they silence. And let me tell you what's made it worse. Media. Media has become the voice of everyone.
Right.
And yet it's not. I remember listening to LBC and this host who I just don't know where to place him. It's just a bit weird. What's the guy's name? The
Nawaz?
one.
Nawaz.
Yeah. Magic Nawaz.
Majid.
Yeah. I'm listening to him,
Magic.
and somebody's talking about their disagreement with homosexual marriage.
Right.
And he's talking about it. Magic's like,
Majid. His name is not Magic. Please.
sorry, whatever.
Stop calling him
He's
Magic.
Like, why are you? He said the conversation's moved on. He said, no, it's not.
It's
I said,
not.
There are still people who don't agree. Just because news says we've moved, and the guy, he was like, Magic was like, oh, it's because you're worried that you may be gay.
That's what they always say. It's because you're gay.
What's
What a
going on?
lazy
And he
argument.
kept going at him. He said, no, we're just thinking. We're having a No, the conversation moved on, you bigot, and I'm not going to have this conversation with you anymore.
Wow. That's brave. That's bravery, by the way.
We can't think.
Majid is a hero, by the way.
Think, because then let me tell you what happens. Then my children go to school, and our values, my value as a Christian, is in a home there's a man and a woman. I still believe it. Shoot me dead for it. That in a home there is no better person to raise a child than a father and a mother. I'm not even divorced father, divorced mother. No, I'm talking a mom and a dad. I'm not talking about an unmarried mom, unmarried dad. I'm talking about married couples. Scientifically, sociologically proven, children grow up healthier in homes where there's a mother and a father. It goes against wokeism.
Yeah.
And yes, I get there are things that go wrong. Divorce happens. Terrible things go on in the journey of life. Life is filled with complexities. It does not mean we change standards.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like someone going to McDonald's and saying the toilet keeps leaking. So therefore, can you change the bylaw in McDonald's that we no longer have to clean the toilets? It's like, no, the standard needs to remain for us to live up to something. And if the standards disappear just because the behavior and the conduct drops, in other words, the laws are bending to favor behavior as opposed to favoring standards.
Great.
And that's what wokeism is all about. It's about, I'm weak in this area. I don't want a God who I'm accountable to. I want to be accountable to what I feel is right and wrong in my own eyes. And if enough of us can agree, it makes it moral.
And that's the problem with wokeism. And that's the big
moral.
And that's the big problem with wokeism. Wokeism is awakeness void of God. Wokeism is awakeness void of God. So basically, woke people have got God out of the equation. And once you get God out of the equation, God is good. And if you get rid of good, you have to formulate your own measurement of good. And so what woke people do in the interest of being woke, they realize that they can never be good outside of God. There's something about human beings that we know we're not good. Our goal then becomes to be better than. I'm not good, but I'm better than you because I believe that gay people should be married.
So I can cancel anyone who is not on my level.
Right.
I'm a terrible person.
I'm an intrinsically terrible person. I gossip, I lie, I cheat. But I do not believe that we at a government level or a federal level should not be able to legislate for the marriage of gay people in this country. Because of that, my benevolence outdoes yours. And this brings us to an interesting segue about women and about the family, which we've been talking about. You know, in the newspaper today, Tulsi Gabbard, who is she's kind of an anomaly. She's like a Majid Nawaz, you know? A broken clock is right twice a day. She kind of sums up that statement. Sometimes you think, is this a Republican or is this a Democrat?
Right.
Who knows? She's who she is, and that's why I love her.
She seems to be a Democrat with some common sense.
Well, that's exactly it. So you see, Tulsi Gabbard slams woke use of congressional language that sees prayer conclude with a man and a woman. Take a look at this video. Take a look at this.
Pursuant to the 20th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, for the meeting of the 117th Congress of the United States, the House will come to order. The prayer will be offered by Reverend Emmanuel Cleaver, St. James United Methodist Church, Kansas City, Missouri.
Let's pray. Eternal God, noiselessly we bow before your throne of grace as we leave behind the politically and socially clamorous year of 2020. We gather now in this consequential chamber to inaugurate another chapter in our roller coaster representative government. The members of this august body acknowledge your sacred supremacy and therefore confess that without your favor and forbearance, we enter this new year relying dangerously on our own fallible nature. God, at a moment when many believe that the bright light of democracy is beginning to dim, empower us with an extra dose of commitment to its principles. May we of the 117th Congress refuel the lamp of liberty so brimful that generations unborn will witness its undying flame. And may we model community healing, control our tribal tendencies, and quicken our spirit that we may feel thy priestly presence even in moments of heightened disagreement. May we so feel your presence that our service here may not be soiled by any utterances or acts unworthy of this high office. Insert in our spirit a light so bright that we can see ourselves and our politics as we really are, soiled by selfishness, perverted by prejudice, and inveigled by ideology. Now may the God who created the world and everything in it bless us and keep us. May the Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May the Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace. Peace in our families, peace across this land, and dare I ask, O Lord, peace even in this chamber, now and evermore. We ask it in the name of the monotheistic God, Brahma, and God known by many names, by many different faiths. A man and a woman.
This was literally, I felt brain cells dying in my brain watching it. I felt like I literally became dumber looking at it. The word amen, it's the Hebrew amen. It has nothing to do with gender.
Yeah.
I think how someone says a man and a woman.
I think the bigger problem that nobody is looking at properly is the fact that he said a woman. He really needed to say a woo. If he was really going to be consistent in his brand, he needed to get rid of the word men. So he should have said amen and a whoa, and just ended it like that. And then
the further confusion, I think, of the political left is that they don't even believe in the construct of women and men.
And this is the big problem, right? This is a big problem, right? Beyond the amen and a woo, which I think he really needs to check in. And then the bigger problem is how, when we're singing hymns, do we sing hers after we've sung hymns? I don't know. I'm just going to leave that one out there for the floor to debate and get back to us on. But look at this. Okay, so when we come into this, so House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, by the way, let me not say what I'm thinking of saying, but I think America made a huge mistake. But I'm just going to leave that alone. But we're going to learn the mistake we made already. Day one's already begun. Nancy Pelosi got her gavel back. She didn't get any more votes. Actually, she got a lot less votes. It was only by one person vote that she became House Speaker. But she's back. And guess what she's doing in Congress? She set these new diversity rules. And the new diversity rules is what Tulsi Gabbard came against. Because obviously now, because of all the voting that's been going on, there's a record number of LGBTQ, TTIP people in Congress for the first time in history. These lawmakers will set the policies of the United States and eventually the world. But look at some of her policies. I want to highlight them. So you are no longer allowed to say fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, brothers, sisters, husbands, and wives. You have to say parent, child, sibling, or spouse. So these are this is her sense, right? And then the funny thing is, so I decided, let me just check out her Twitter page to see if she's following her rules. On her Twitter page, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, focused on strengthening America's middle class, creating jobs, mother, grandmother, and dark chocolate connoisseur.
Her level of hypocrisy is staggering.
She's not a hypocrite, she's a hippopotamus. It's a completely different level. She is outranking hypocrisy. Wow. She is now hippopotamus. Totally. Because how in the world are you going to enforce this rule and not have the tact to at least go on your pages and delete your little statements?
It's the same tact she lacked when she locked down her entire jurisdiction. Is it in Los Angeles?
And then went to a hairdresser.
She locks down her entire jurisdiction and then goes to the hairdresser herself to get her hair done. Because it's the same rules for you and it's not for me.
And that's the biggest problem with wokeness, right? It's like, let's take, no, not hypocrisy, the level above, hippopotamus. It's like, let's...
Oh, the level above, yeah.
Yeah, it's like...
Who polices it?
No, it's not even that. Even though we're talking about who polices it, right? The problem is it's the rules for thee, but not for me, right? Global warming pandemic, they all travel to Europe to have this big meeting. The who's who of the zoo is there at the World Economic Forum, and they all flew in by private jets. And they're all talking about how we need to lower emissions. Yet none of them is willing to go in an economically friendly, Eurotunnel and travel their way into the meeting, or take a nice little steamboat or a rowboat to the place, but yet they travel in these high emission vehicles.
A bunch of other people. So you don't have one private jet for you.
Right.
Lower the emissions.
So the issue we have today is leadership has become management. It's no longer leadership, because leadership must set the example. It's now do as I say, not as I do. And you've got to follow their lips closely when they say that, because otherwise you'll find them eating at a restaurant that they decided to leave open whilst everybody else in small and medium-sized enterprises goes to hell, basically, in a handbasket. Otherwise, you see them taking their masks off at airports when they're enforcing your 2-year-old kid to get off the plane for not wearing his mask. And so we have this kind of very backwards world, and I just thank God Tulsi Gabbard stood up against it. But let me tell you the line that Tulsi Gabbard said that really summed up her problem. It says, Tulsi Gabbard, a former Hawaii congresswoman, by the way, she's no longer congresswoman. Whoops. She should probably remember.
What?
She's no longer she's been kicked out of the party. Okay, but let's move on. Says that the rules essentially He says, okay, it sees all gender identities honored by changing pronouns and familiar relationships in the house rules to be gender neutral. Now, here's Tulsi's problem. She's a feminist, okay? So she's like, the rules essentially ignore the very existence of woman. Like, now you delete woman when you spent years as Democrats fighting hand and foot for women's rights and equality, and all of a sudden now you're telling us woman no longer exists. We can no longer use that word. We now have to use the pronoun parent. And so she's like, and here lies the fundamental problem with wokeness. Eventually, it must consume itself. It must cannibalize to survive.
There's a great example of that in one of the most woke senators, Alexander. I always say her surname wrong, so you go ahead.
Ocasio-Cortez.
Spend the next talking about how I pronounce it. I'll just call her AC. What's her nickname?
AOC.
AOC. I'll call her AOC. And she is in a meeting, and she's talking about climate control and climate change. And one of the woke members, I think we need to play that video.
Okay, check this out.
Going to be here for much long because of the climate crisis. We only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you, you're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you. No, thank you. We'll go ahead. Okay. No, we'll go ahead. It's so no. Yeah, no. Thank you. So I think So one of the things that's very important to us is that we need to treat the climate crisis with the urgency that it does present. Luckily, we have more than a few months. We do need to hit net zero in several years. But I think we all need to understand that there are a lot of solutions that we have and that we can pursue, and that if we act in a positive way, there's space for hope. We are never beyond hope. Okay.
And so you see that halfway through, this woman stands up. We should eat our babies. At that moment, whether prank or not, I don't know, you see the senator's face go, wokeism done gone too far.
Wokeism done got brokeism.
Why'd you do this?
Sorry.
Why'd you have to ruin it?
I think I broke woke. I think woke is broke. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right one. Keep going. Yeah, but I mean, eat your babies. Are you out of your mind?
That was the solution. And you see the senator's face, who, by the way, believes in abortion. She has decided she's not going to have children.
She's not going to have children.
Because she doesn't want to contribute to the carbon footprint. I actually think she's done us a favor in not reproducing. But anyway, she's talking here, and her face, the star on her face, is just like, that was the most startling thing to me. It was, can this wokeism go too far?
Can it go too far?
Sure. Let me tell you what scares me now. The new leader of the free world. Let me tell you why he scares me. Because he's clearly a filler. He's not going to last long.
No.
And I'm not saying he's going to die.
Let me tell you what my prediction is, and see if you agree. My prediction, this ain't prophecy, but if it comes to pass, I'll say it is, okay? My prediction is that Biden is going to be elected, and that Kamala Harris is going to backstab him. I mean, she's just gonna nudge him a little bit, just off the pavement, just a little bit, so the car comes by. She ain't gonna do it deliberately, but she's gonna just nudge him a little bit. I don't think he's gonna step down. I think that there's gonna be so much scandal concerning him that even she's gonna sit back and go,
switcheroo. I think then there's gonna be a massive hoo-ha.
hoo-ha.
I'll tell you what it's gonna be. The first female president.
Black
female president of these United States. A glass ceiling has been smashed.
A new world record in America's history.
You have
this is the dawn of a new day.
The far left leaning Bernie Sanders, who was, by the way, gaining momentum for a long time, and that's why they had to stab him with Biden. They get rid of him. Biden comes in, who's kind of your middle, moderate-looking Democrat in a way. I'm safe, Uncle Samish. And then you have Kamala, whatever. I always murder names. She's over here on the left. She's not as far left as the three, but she's somewhere in there. Now, if the Americans lose the race for Georgia, they will have lost everything. Wokeism will abound.
Wokeism will abound.
And I think you're going to see people leave America or move to states that are Republican run. And you're going to see this clear.
But the problem is when they
divide.
move to states that are Republican run, they bring their Democrat policies with them. That's the big problem. That's the big problem. If all these people start moving to Texas, red Texas, they bring their crazy policies and their crazy decisions along with them over. But let's move on to another issue, because I feel like we're left. Let's talk about guns. Let's talk about guns, okay? We live in a country where when Americans come, they're always surprised that our police don't carry guns. Now, by the way, more than ever, they seem to be. Terrorism and that.
They woke up.
But they woke up. But the interesting thing is we're in such a woke culture on the left, but the right side of the aisle is talking about the need to bear arms. Now, let's talk about this from a British perspective and point of view. Because for the longest time, a lot of people are arguing, well, Chicago won't be so bad if we got rid of guns. Well, these places wouldn't be so bad in America if they just decided to do gun control. And gun control means we're going to take away your guns, which is what a lot of people think it means. Then they say, no, we'll just take away your semi-automatics. Why do you need a military combat rifle on the street? And then you have the Second Amendment. Well, in case of the rise of a tyrannical government. And then they say, like Piers Morgan, you're utterly stupid if you think in this day and age your government is going to rise against you.
Right. See, Americans got guns in case of tyranny.
Right.
From government, because they've experienced tyranny. They've experienced it. They've been there before. And they do not think it's outside the remit of logic.
Did you say remit?
Sense that people in government
I just want to
will be
pause there for a
tyrannical
second.
again.
I don't mean to be funny. But did you say remit? Say it one more time.
Oh, you want me to say remit?
Say remit. I prefer it. Please just say it again. I know. Just please.
Do you want me to say remit?
No, say remit. It's better.
Different people pronounce it differently. Let's listen to Google Translate. One sec.
Okay, let's listen to Google Translate.
Let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Let's see if it comes out in the volume.
This is important.
So I got here the word. Are we listening? Hear that?
No, I didn't hear it.
Remit.
Remit. They're even worse. I say remit, you say remit, they say remit.
Yes, remit. It's not remit.
It's a remit.
Remit.
Okay, sorry. Continue with
Okay.
Maybe we'll get
They'll
somebody
see it as
to put a
outside
voiceover.
of
But I
the-
think it's remit. It's not remit.
Whatever.
Remit.
Comment in below.
Comment below.
Remit.
Remit or remit.
Or remit.
Marv, what is it?
Remit.
Is it remit?
Or remit.
Thank you.
Yeah, remit or
What's it?
remit.
Remit.
It's a tough one. Depends on what city you're in.
Remit or I'm asking Dennis.
You're asking Dennis. You're asking. You're asking.
Dennis that calls Laurie Raleigh.
It's so rude. That's so rude. I can't deal with you right now.
Are you
That's
literally
rude.
going to the shop?
You what?
Okay.
What? Okay, continue, please.
I'm done.
Okay, listen.
actually done.
Are you listening?
Remit.
Yeah.
Remit.
See?
Okay, he's saying
Remit. They're
remit.
even different.
That's weird.
Remit. Wow, this OTT really just turned into house pronouncement.
Remit.
Remit. Okay, that's different.
Remit.
I guess
It's
it depends on where
interesting.
you're from.
The American translation said remit. The UK one said remit. We're British. Let's just use the proper term. Remit. Continue. Continue
Okay, so
from.
that's the remit.
Oh gosh.
They don't conceive it to be outside the remit of governmental power to be tyrannical to its own people.
Right.
And actually, we're seeing tyranny right now.
We're seeing.
I think we're seeing the beginnings.
Bro.
Because to me, let me just say, if I was the UK government, if you're going to put us in tier 5, God knows what the limit's going to be. And I agree, by the way, with some of the measures, because you're talking about a virus now that has a 70% higher transmission rate, they're saying. That's insane, okay?
I don't
That's
agree with the
insane.
measures.
I kind of do. Bro, I just spoke to someone today who had to be transported to some crazy hospital because the parent coughed around them, had COVID, and that was it. They got it. And now they are not breathing. Everything's shutting down.
Right.
It's bad.
It is bad.
But can
at
I just
what
say something?
point
I think they need to stop treating people like idiots.
Right. Right.
Give the information.
Give the information.
Give the information. It's assumption that the majority of people are lazy, they don't want to read or no, and that's true. But there are people who actually want to read. There are people who want to know what's happening. There's people who want to know. Like I had to do my own study on the vaccination, find out how they're getting it into our body, that they're using DNA, that DNA is there to create the necessary
RNA.
proteins, DNA and RNA vaccines, and all that. I actually want to know. I want to know the viral load. I want to know, but you also get a sense that there's a bit of covering up.
Mm-hmm.
Because why is it we are not coming down on the Chinese government? Why are we all skirting this issue? This is a power. There's a billionaire today, bro, I don't remember his name, a famous billionaire today that I heard, and maybe we need to verify it, but I heard he's disappeared. It's on the, let's get it, this newspaper. Oh, I can't even see the name of it. But the billionaire Jack Ma, I don't know if you heard of him. He's missing because he mentioned something against the Chinese government.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Right? You've got an entire group of Muslims who are being genocided. Just like Hitler was killing and the world was just getting on and moving on with life, there's entire concentration camps being built with people being genocided. China is not evil. But the government in charge, no one's holding them accountable. There may be evidence that this was man-made. No one wants to study it. No one wants to know about it. You get the idea that today there are polls out that the majority of people do not trust their government.
Absolutely.
And yet there is everything being done to show that governments aren't trustworthy. So when you go over to the American side and you see their desire to bear arms, it really is the last stand of personal power to them. And yet, you see in the UK, knife crime rivaled the death rate in New York.
Right.
So is the weapon of choice the problem?
Exactly. That's what my
Is
thing
it
is.
the nature
Because you're just
of the
substituting
climate we're
because
in?
you're just substituting one weapon for another. Guys, we're going to take a break
Right.
right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about where we actually believe the world is heading and what dangers that spell. Because some people think, well, if it's heading that way, that's cool. No, what dangers it spells. And actually, what can we do to slow it down? We can't stop it, but we can slow it down. I believe we can. We'll be right back. So we're in a day right now of extreme hyperbole. I mean, on every side, you have the left, you have the right, you have Antifa, you have Black Lives Matter, you have the alt-right, you have Nazism on the rise, and so much hate. And in the midst of that, it's very hard for the Christian to navigate their way through this dense political climate. With that in mind, I decided to spend at least 3 years compiling a book I call The Cosmopolitan Christian. You know, the Bible says we're in this world, we're not of this world. And so it's so hard for Christians today to navigate this dense spiritual political climate without being accused of being partisan or not knowing where they stand on certain issues and political things, and especially when the language and the meaning of words is being changed every single day. You know, our enemy specializes in euphemism. Euphemism is simply the swapping of words for less harmful ones. The Bible calls this blasphemy. It means to switch, to change something that is inherently evil and put a label on it that makes it sound inherently good. And because of that, many Christians have capitulated to things that we weren't supposed to conform to. Remember, the Bible says, don't be conformed, but be transformed. And in this book, Cosmopolitan Christian, I want to help you identify what is the world and what is our part in bringing forth the redemptive DNA that different parts of the world possesses, whilst rejecting things that are not supposed to be a part of our lives. Whether you know it or not, we are now in Babylon. We are in that marketplace extreme. COVID-19 has forced us out of our hiding places, and the church can no longer be our sanctuary and safe space. Now we have to learn to navigate this dense climate. And in this book, I show the Cosmopolitan Christian just how to do that. I hope you download it. I hope you buy it. It will bless you tremendously. It will bless your church, your ministry, your youth group, your adult group. Those of you who are in the workplace on a 9-to-5, it will bless you to help you to be like a Daniel who knows what to accept and what to refuse. Download it now. God bless.
Well, you got him down, man. Let him breathe, at least, man.
So welcome back, everybody. We got about 10 more minutes left. So we're going to talk about socialism because I actually believe that for the first time in history, we are heading towards a global socialism. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, actually, I didn't know this. A lot of people out there were calling us Uncle Tom, bounties, whatever you have it, as we were talking about the Trump presidency. Now, here's the issue. I want to simplify why, if I was American, I would vote Trump, or why the world should have supported Trump. In this sentence, Trump equals more time, no Trump equals less time. That's my simple, I think we have less time now, totally less time to what? To advance, a dramatic leap towards socialism. I'm not talking about a slow grab. I'm talking about one day you're gonna wake up and you're in George Orwell's utopian nightmare, where all of a sudden the elites are ruling the kind of the profligate, the regular people, and they're telling the regular people how they should live their lives, how they should govern, blah 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 blah. Now, let me just say this. As somebody who's from the UK, where we have audience from all over the world, I'm going to be the first to state an unpopular opinion. Can I start with a song? Is that okay? Can I start with a song?
You're gonna sing?
Yeah. Let's sing this round in. Now it's time to give an unpopular opinion, something in your mind that you've been scared to say. What do you think? Good song, right? I didn't make it up, but I love it. Let me sing it again. Now it's time for your unpopular opinion, something in your heart that you've been scared to say. So let me say what I've been scared to say. I haven't been scared to say this, but I'm going to say it right now. I think the NHS is a really bad idea. And in this country, saying that is like, oh my God, what did you say about my church? What did you say about my church? What do you say about the church I go to? I think the NHS is a really bad idea. I'm going to say a number of reasons why I think the NHS is a bad idea. Top three reasons. Number one, it doesn't motivate doctors to become better doctors.
Gotcha.
Because everybody's getting paid set at the government level, right? Nurses are getting paid at the government level. Everybody's getting paid kind of in their tiers at the government level. So it doesn't bode well. Number two, it doesn't help me decide I want this doctor and I'm willing to pay more for him because he's better at his job than that doctor. And although it works for other people, it don't work for some. Number three, the middle class is footing a very hefty bill for a leaking ship. An absolutely leaking ship. And I know that's unpopular today, especially somebody's going to say, well, thank God for them during the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, I've lived with the NHS parents. Our whole family is NHS, okay? My sister's she's a dentist, my mom's a dentist, my dad's a consultant. So we've lived NHS all our entire life. So I know to some that sounds like a really unpopular and ungrateful opinion. But one of my biggest reasons I don't like it is because I realized something. You know, you asked me a question when you said, hit the share button on one of your New Year's preach. And then you said, why is it that you can have 800 people on here and 1,000 people and no one's hitting only 200 are hitting the share button? I'll tell you why. It's because 600 of them have government jobs. And when you have a government job, there are very few things you can share. When you have government jobs and you share somebody like a Tobi Arayomi who is likely at any given moment to go ham on a subject, there are very few things you can reshare. Now, this is NHS is a small scale prototype of socialism. Now imagine every single person in the world was getting a government check. Not a check because they worked for a business or a private organization, a check from a government who, if the government doesn't like what you say, in third world countries, they can kill you. In a country of supposed press freedom, they can't kill you, they can just defund you. They can totally deplete your finances, your kids' finances, your family. And don't tell me that hasn't happened. We've had doctors fired in this country for refusing to perform gender reorientation surgery to 12-year-old children. We've had doctors cancelled for refusing to perform abortions. We've had doctors cancelled for refusing to allow their speech to be composed to call somebody a different...
That's when cancel culture gets extremely wicked.
Absolutely.
When you can take away someone's livelihood because they don't agree with you politically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not scientifically. We don't agree with you politically.
Right.
This is a political opinion, not a scientific opinion. It isn't based in any science today. Mm-hmm. It's purely political.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The fact that you want to abort your baby and I don't, that's purely political. Scientifically, it's amoral. Spiritually and religiously, it's moral. Science can't determine what's right and wrong. Science can guide you in some way to inform your conscience. Your conscience has to then make the decision,
right,
this is right or this is wrong. Unfortunately, we've been making the wrong decision over and over and over again because we want the one that suits how we feel.
Right.
Morally, we want the path of least resistance, and we want others to agree with us so we don't feel ashamed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at this. S&P, it made global headlines SNP's new hate crime bill could criminalize the Bible, right?
I knew it was coming.
Just think about the world we're stepping into right now, where you can criminalize people for preaching the Bible. Eventually, what you're
Try
really,
and do that to the Quran.
But really, what you're
Try
talking
and
about.
do it to the Quran.
But really,
Try it.
But really, what you're
Do you know what
talking
I'm saying?
about. But really, what you I do. But really, what you're talking
They'll
about.
never do it. It's not politically expedient for them to do it.
I get you.
Think about that.
I
Think
get
about
you.
it, because the millions of people that make up the Muslim populace in the United Kingdom, you criminalize the Quran, you'll be finished. That's the problem with wokeism. It's selective by nature.
And like rightly said, the system always devours itself to survive. Eventually, you start saying, well, what about Islam and the things that the Quran says? Well, eventually, the system will devour itself because it will end up canceling so much that it cancels itself. It will just.
That's the issue.
It's
just not based off of precedent or standard. It's based off of opinion. If my opinion has to go against your opinion, or our opinions become the standard, then which one is right? Which one's wrong? And it has to implode.
But this is the danger of where we're going to. And I was sharing this with Mum yesterday because Mum was like, well, you know, this is where the world is going and human beings learn to evolve, right? Actually, we haven't had a day like this in history. I think we're at the 5th industrial revolution right now with automation and AI. And if we're at that 5th revolution, the issue is in every other revolution, there was still private ownership with some government intervention, some government regulations. I mean, factories were really poorly run. Young kids were dying in coal mines before they regulated it. And so you got to say, well, some regulations are necessary because otherwise capitalists become extortionists and they exploit the desperation of the worker. And so, but even then, is that government intervention or is that just, again, resetting the moral compass of people's lives through spirituality in the church? You know, I don't know. That remains to be seen. But when we move now into the world we're coming into with this 5th revolution, the problem is, this 5th revolution that we're coming into, it all wants to be held at the government level. Government wants to be the custodian of this 5th revolution. I'm sorry. I got a tickly cough. Government wants to be the new custodian of this new revolution. And that means people like Joe Biden putting technocrats in his cabinet. It means this unholy marriage. You know, we talk about this unholy alliance of church and state. Imagine an unholy alliance of tech and state. Imagine this phone is no longer a phone. One day I had a vision, I saw my phone, and my phone changed its name in this vision. It was no longer a phone. It was called the black box. Now just think, a black box is what you put on a plane. When the plane crashes, you find out what really happened. Imagine this phone has 0 privacy policies anymore. You now have a front camera and a back camera. The front camera now has been made deliberately, and this is not conspiracy theory, this is proven fact.
I mean, no, you can read this, you can read about this in the Snowden reports.
And you can read about this anywhere.
Absolutely proven
that
to be
now
true.
the front camera is a great tool for NSA or any of these people, because there's been all these back loops made into it, to be able to spy on you or to look into your life.
And blackmail you.
And blackmail you. Now the new Instagram policies that just came out, draconian policies that basically say Instagram owns your photos. Instagram can access your photos. Instagram can access your camera at any time in case you're not wearing a mask. Now imagine when this pandemic passes, do you think that Instagram and Facebook are going to remove those powers and privileges? Do you think this unholy alliance between tech and state is ever going to go away? It's only going to get stronger. And we only have to look back, by the way, to the day where it was a race to take almost 10 years to get 1 million phones in every home. Now, I mean, Instagram has downloaded 1 million downloads in 1 month. I don't know the exact numbers, but just the acceleration of the time we're living in today. 6 billion people have mobile phones today. You can go to the most remote parts of Africa and people will have this black box. And so the world is moving towards greater surveillance.
And we saw the power of tech and the marriage of government with things like Brexit, Cambridge Analytica, and how we were all digitally optimized to believe something, to move in a certain way, whether you believe in Brexit or not. We saw the unholy marriage between Twitter and how they protected the Bidens, even when news came out that he had done something in terms of some illegal dealings with Ukraine. We saw this unholy alliance with the recent senator who it was discovered was actually in bed with a spy, literally. We're talking about a president being in cahoots, and it was just suggested, but this has been proven fact. Somebody in bed with a spy telling U.S. secrets. Absolutely. And nothing, radio silence all abroad. And it's a marriage between three to optimize and to persuade our minds. It's government, tech, and media. And we are seeing how this alliance is framing things. You could be in your house with your children, ordinary children. Within 1 hour, your child is coming to you saying, Mom, the Queen is really a reptilian. And if you don't know, JFK was really murdered by another race from space who came down to Earth because they're planning on setting up their own Messiah. You're like, what happened to my child? Tech is so powerful. Do you know what? I was watching a documentary about tech from somebody who designed the technology behind Google. And he had to leave for ethical reasons. He said he had to leave because it was unethical. He said that when you watch your phone, the algorithm behind the phone is creating a version of you that loves what you love, like what you like. The terrible thing, when you saw the interviews between Senator Ted Cruz and the owner of Twitter, Jack, I forget his name, Dorsey or something like that. When you saw that interview taking place, it was very obvious that they had rearranged the algorithms on Twitter to move away from any kind of news that shone on the Bidens in a negative light. And we're seeing this kind of media control, mass control of the people. And what it sadly shows is that we are still not immune to propaganda. We still bite the bullet when it comes to propaganda. And the father of propaganda really was Hitler, or the father of usage of propaganda was Hitler, who said if you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth. People believe it.
Great.
And unfortunately, I think we're believing a big lie.
How can we slow down what's coming? Just in our last minute, tell us 5 things we can do to slow down what's coming. You know, most of our audience.
Do you know what I keep hearing the word?
Go for it.
I keep seeing Star Wars and the Resistance. I keep seeing a resistance. And they are troublesome. And they own media companies like Rig Nation and various others blowing up everywhere. Let me tell you something. I keep seeing this resistance. In China, they already have one, but the resistance is being slaughtered and killed. In UK, we have one, but the slaughtering is far worse. They kill you while you're alive by assassinating your character online. They don't care about what you said. You might have said something utterly true, but they're going to come for you and your character and who you are. A doctor can say, a medical doctor can say there's evidence that this particular medicine is effective against COVID-19. We don't care to research that, no. We want to know she's a Christian who believes in casting out devils. Let's come after that. Not the truth of what her profession says. And so I keep seeing this intelligentsia that's coming forth of a resistance. Media companies, tech companies, and also government infiltrators who may not necessarily be able to change things, but can provide a resistance.
I think so too. I think resistance is a must. And actually, I think this is the David Goliath case. I think those who don't despise what they carry will take down those who have been established for years and are taunting from their big skyscrapers at how big they are. I think we're going to see those courageous Davids rise up and have a slingshot and a stone. Not even the amount of money that these big tech companies have, but they have the trust of the people and the covenant of God on their side. And they're going to be the ones to rise up as the challengers. And so, guys, you've been watching On the Table. I hope you've enjoyed this program today. Please hit share. Don't be afraid to subscribe. It's really important that you do. I know we get thousands of people watch On the Table, but it doesn't always show up in the subscription. So subscribe. It's a tiny little button right there. Press that bell. Turn on all the notifications. You've been watching On the Table with me, Tomi Arayomi.
And me, Tobi Arayomi.
Take care.
We all have a life.
No west, no bad. No Louis, no Dewey, female, no female.